West Sound, y'all know what time it is, man. Listen, all summer long, I'm washing cars, cutting grass, taking trash out. That what you want to pay me for? Tap in with me. I swear to God, you gotta be in Atlanta, Cobb, DeKalb, Clay County, Gwinnett. You gotta be in the surrounding areas. As far as I might go, it's 45 minutes away from Atlanta. I ain't going no further than that. I ain't going 46. But listen, if you want your grass cut today, get at me. Drop a comment, hit me in the DM. Seriously business on it.
Imagine going from pulling up to shows in a brand new Dodge Challenger, rocking a Rolex on your wrist, getting paid thousands just to sit in somebody's video, to posting on your Instagram story at 34 years old, asking your fans if they need their trash taken out. Not metaphorically, not as some kind of promo stunt, not as a joke for the algorithm, literally begging for odd jobs, cutting grass, hauling garbage, taking out somebody's trash for a few dollars just to make ends meet. That is exactly where Lil Woody finds himself right now. And the story of how he ended up in this position is one of the most painful, most preventable falls from grace that the internet has watched play out in a very long time. Because this was not a guy who never had it. This was not somebody who was always on the struggle, always at the bottom, always fighting just to keep his head above water every single day. Lil Woody had real money coming in from every direction during his peak years. He was a certified viral sensation. He was the life of every party, every room, every platform he touched. Brands were reaching out. Creators were reaching out. Everybody in the space wanted a piece of what he was bringing to the table. And somewhere right in the middle of all of that attention and all of that cash flooding through his hands, something went terribly, terribly wrong. By the time the wave died down and the phone stopped ringing the way it used to ring, there was nothing left to fall back on. No savings stacked away in any kind of account. No investments working quietly in the background. No real estate generating passive income. No plan B waiting in the cut for exactly this kind of moment. Just a grown man at 34 years old posting on social media and asking strangers if they had some yard work that needed handling or some trash that needed hauling. What makes this story land even harder is that this is not something from decades ago. This man was living large not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. The money was real, the lifestyle was real, the platform was real, and it was generating consistent income, which means the fall was just as real, and the distance between where he was and where he is right now is genuinely staggering when you line it all up side by side. Today, we are going to break all of it down from the very beginning, where Lil Woody came from, how he got famous, how the content money started flooding in, what he chose to do with every dollar he earned, how the wave started slowing down, and how a man who was once getting paid thousands per appearance ended up on his own Instagram story, begging his own fans for work. Stay locked in, because this one goes deep. Every single part of this story matters. Now, before we get into the full breakdown, let me set the foundation properly, because a lot of people only know Lil Woody from the clips. They recognize the energy, they know the laugh. They recognize that personality that just explodes off the screen every single time he appears on camera. But they do not know the origin. They do not know where he came from or what shaped him into the person the internet eventually locked onto. And you genuinely cannot understand how far a person has fallen without first understanding exactly how high they climbed and what it took to get there. So we're going all the way back to the beginning. Lil Woody is out of Memphis, Tennessee. And if you know anything at all about Memphis, you already understand what that one sentence means without needing any further explanation. Memphis does not produce soft people. It just does not. Memphis is a city with a very specific kind of character. Gritty, raw, loud, and completely unfiltered in a way that is honestly hard to fully convey if you have never spent real time there. It does not apologize for what it is, and it does not raise people who blend quietly into the background or stay silent when they have something to say. There is a particular kind of hunger that gets built into you when you grow up in Memphis. A hunger that comes from seeing the full range of what life can be in very close proximity. The highs, the lows, and everything in between, all on the same blocks and in the same neighborhoods. The people who come up out of that city carry that hunger with them everywhere they go for the rest of their lives. It becomes embedded in how they walk into a room. It becomes part of how they communicate and how they carry themselves in every space they enter. Lil Woody was no exception to any of that. Memphis put its mark on him from the very beginning long before anyone outside his neighborhood had any idea who he was. He came up in an environment where finding a way to distinguish yourself was not a luxury or a creative choice. It was essentially survival. You either found a way to stand out, or the environment swallowed you whole. And from an early age, before any cameras were pointed at him, before any platform gave him a wider reach, before any check was ever cut in his name, it was already clear that Lil Woody was not going to be the one who disappeared into the background. He was always the one who shifted the energy in a room just by showing up. He was always the character, always the person who could take a group of people from completely quiet to fully alive in the span of a few moments. People were drawn to him naturally because he had something that genuinely cannot be manufactured or coached into someone from the outside. He had a completely authentic, magnetic, fully unscripted presence that made everyone in proximity pay attention without even meaning to. He was funny without ever sitting down to write a joke. He was entertaining without putting on a persona or performing a character that was separate from who he actually was. He was just real. In a media landscape where almost everything being served to audiences online is carefully calculated, carefully curated, carefully engineered to hit certain numbers, that kind of raw, unscripted, authentic energy is not something that is easy to find. It is actually one of the rarest things in the entire digital content world, and the internet has a very sharp nose for it. When it finds it, it locks on. And that is exactly what happened when the content world found Lil Woody. So here's how the come up actually went down, because it is important to understand that Lil Woody did not build his name or his platform through any kind of traditional entertainment industry pathway. There was no major label signing. There was no corporate executive at a music company who decided to invest in developing him as an artist. There was no carefully produced and heavily marketed music video that exploded overnight and launched him into the mainstream. His rise was completely and genuinely organic. It started with his personality and spread because the people who encountered it could not help sharing it with everyone they knew. Creators started featuring him in their content. Interviewers started booking him for sit-downs. Media platforms operating in the lane that covers street culture, hip-hop, and the broader culture that surrounds both of those worlds started reaching out to Lil Woody on a consistent basis because of what happened every single time a camera pointed in his direction. Skits, reaction content, sit-down conversations, freestyle sessions. It did not matter what the format was or what the platform looked like. Every time Lil Woody showed up on somebody's channel or somebody's show, he delivered. Not most of the time, not when he felt like it. Every single time, consistently, reliably, without fail. Now here is something that people outside of this particular content space might not fully understand, and I want to take a moment to make sure this lands clearly. In the world of digital media that serves street culture and hip-hop and everything orbiting those two things, personality is not just a concept or a soft skill. Personality is literal financial currency. You do not need a rap career to earn at the level of someone who has one. You do not need chart records or radio spins or a label deal behind you. What you need is to be the kind of person whose presence in a video directly drives more views, more clicks, more comments, more shares, and more revenue for whoever was smart enough to bring you in. Lil Woody was exactly that kind of person for a genuine and sustained stretch of time. His personality alone carried measurable, provable financial value in the open market of digital content creation. Platforms started reaching out regularly because the math was completely undeniable. When Lil Woody appeared in a video, that video outperformed. When he sat down for an interview, the comment section went crazy in real time. When clips featuring him got shared to social media, they circulated across platforms on their own momentum, because people genuinely could not help sharing them with their circles. He had become the kind of guest that content creators think about strategically and plan around. Because having someone like that in your corner raises the entire ceiling of what your content can achieve. You do not have to carry the creative weight yourself. You point the camera, you press record, and he handles everything else. And once that reputation was fully locked in across the space, the financial side of things followed accordingly, and it moved fast. We are not talking about small splits of YouTube ad revenue. We are not talking about a couple $100 for a quick cameo. We are talking about real appearance fees. Serious money being exchanged for the opportunity to have Lil Woody's energy and presence on a platform. being flown to participate in projects, walking away from a single booking with a check that a lot of people in regular 9-to-5 employment do not see in a full month. The demand was real, it was consistent, and for a meaningful stretch of time, Lil Woody was one of the most in-demand personalities operating in his entire lane of digital content. Shows wanted him. Podcasts were actively competing to land him as a guest. YouTube channels with significant subscriber counts and serious revenue were in his inbox regularly. He was everywhere at once, and everywhere he landed, he was getting compensated for it. We are talking thousands of dollars per appearance at the height of his demand. Sometimes considerably more than that depending on the size and reach of the platform and the full scope of what they were bringing him in for. And when you are stacking bookings at that level, week after week and month after month, that income becomes something very substantial very quickly. That is the kind of sustained earning power that approached with any level of genuine financial awareness and discipline builds real wealth. The kind of money that sets a person up not just for the current season, but for the seasons that come after it. But here is where the story takes the turn that changes everything. And this is the part that I need you to stay fully with me on, because this is where the entire trajectory of Lil Woody's life shifts in a direction that eventually lands him exactly where we see him right now. The money was absolutely coming in. Nobody is disputing that. The problem, the real, painful, completely avoidable problem, was what was happening to every single dollar on the way back out the door. Lil Woody was not being quiet or private about his spending habits. He was not hiding what he was doing with his money. He was broadcasting it openly on social media for his entire following and the broader internet to see and react to. And what he was broadcasting was not modest. The watches came first. And when we say watches, we're not talking about a fashion accessory you pick up at a department store or chain mall. We are talking about luxury timepieces. The kind of jewelry that carries serious price tags, pieces that cost more than what a significant portion of working people earn in several months, sometimes more than a full year's salary depending on the piece. These are watches that signal one very specific thing to everyone who sees them: that you have arrived, that the money is different now, that the old version of you who had nothing is officially and permanently in the past. Lil Woody was rocking pieces like these publicly and with regularity on his social media, showing them off as if that level of expenditure was simply his new everyday baseline. And truthfully, when the income is flowing the way it was flowing at his peak, that mindset is dangerously easy to fall into. The spending feels sustainable because the income feels like it is going to continue. Nothing in the moment tells you that it is not going to last, so you spend accordingly, and the spending becomes the habit. Then came the cars. And this is honestly where the hindsight becomes the most painful to sit with. Lil Woody was pulling up in custom vehicles, clean, head-turning whips, Dodge Challengers sitting exactly right, the kind of car that draws eyes and cameras the moment it rolls into any parking lot or any block. In the culture, what you drive communicates something. It tells a story about where you stand, how far you have come, and what kind of life you are currently living. And for somebody who came up the way Lil Woody came up, out of Memphis, out of an environment where having nothing was a very real and very close possibility, pulling up in a car like that is not just a purchase. It is a statement. It is evidence. It is something tangible you can point to as proof of how far you have traveled from where you started. But no amount of cultural context or personal significance changes the cold financial reality of what a car actually does to your money over time. Cars depreciate the moment they leave the dealership lot. They keep losing value every single year after that. They require insurance payments every month without exception. They require maintenance and service and occasional repairs that can get expensive fast. They require fuel on a regular basis. A car is not building your net worth while it sits in your driveway looking impressive. It is draining your resources consistently, quietly, and without pause, every single month. And Lil Woody was not managing the cost of one car. He had multiple, but here is the real damage. And this is the part of the story that goes beyond just expensive taste or flashy purchases. The deeper issue is not what was being bought. The deeper and far more consequential issue is what was not being built at the exact same time the buying was happening. There's no credible report, no account from anyone inside that world, no evidence whatsoever of Lil Woody making any kind of structured or intentional financial investment during his peak earning years. No real estate being acquired, no business ventures being funded or launched, No investment vehicles of any kind being put to work in the background. No financial infrastructure being constructed that would continue generating income once the appearance fees slowed down or stopped entirely. No one apparently in his inner circle was sitting him down and having that hard, real, necessary conversation, the one that goes, "This is great right now, but what are we building with this? What is going to still be standing when this wave inevitably recedes?" Because it will recede. Everything does. In the viral personality and content appearance space, the wave ending is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The platforms always eventually move on. The algorithms always shift their weight in new directions. The audiences always migrate toward whoever is generating the most energy in the current news cycle. And the person who was the most in-demand name in the room in 1 year can become a distant memory in 2 years, and the transition happens faster than anyone riding the wave ever wants to believe is possible when they are at the top of it. The people who survive that transition with their lives and their finances intact are the ones who use the good years to build income streams that do not require them to be famous or actively booked to keep running. Real estate generating rental income, businesses that operate independently, investments compounding in the background, something that bridges the gap between the peak and whatever comes next. Lil Woody never built any of that. He built the lifestyle. And when the income that was sustaining the lifestyle began contracting, the lifestyle could not contract fast enough to keep pace with the new financial reality. The watches were already purchased. The cars were already on the road eating money every month. The money was already out the door, and there was no foundation underneath any of it to absorb the impact of what was coming. Now let us talk about how the actual slowdown went down, because the decline did not arrive in one dramatic, obvious moment. It never does when this happens. It crept in quietly, subtle at first, easy to rationalize, easy to tell yourself that it was just a slow period, that the phone would start ringing again, that another booking was right around the corner, and then one day, the truth of the situation became impossible to rationalize away. The wave started dying down the way internet waves always die down, slowly at first and then all at once. The bookings started coming in with less frequency. The platforms that used to reach out to him on a consistent basis started shifting their energy and their budgets toward newer faces and fresher personalities, toward whoever was generating the most buzz in the current cycle. That is just how this ecosystem functions. It is always hungry for something new. It is always moving forward toward whatever is creating the most heat right now. And in that constant forward motion, whoever is not actively generating new heat gets left behind. That is not a personal judgment, and it is not a conspiracy. That is simply the indifferent, relentless mechanics of the attention economy. The shows stopped booking him with the same urgency. The podcast circuit moved on to whoever was moving the most numbers at that particular time. The interview requests became increasingly infrequent. And here is the brutal reality of what that means when you have no financial cushion underneath you. Every single reduction in bookings registers immediately and directly in your day-to-day life. There is no buffer between the income slowing down and the consequences of it slowing down. There is no employer absorbing the gap while you figure out your next move. There is no savings account bridging you from one opportunity to the next. Lil Woody was a freelancer in a market where the demand for his specific product began to shrink, and he had nothing stacked away from the peak years to soften what that shrinkage actually felt like in real life. The financial pressure started building, and when that kind of pressure builds with no foundation underneath you, it does not take long before it becomes undeniable in public. The phone was not ringing the way it used to ring. The checks were not coming in the way they used to come in, and the lifestyle that was built on those checks, the cars, the watches, the image, was still costing money every single month regardless of whether any new income was coming in to cover it. And then came the Instagram story, the moment that the internet stopped scrolling to look at. Not to be entertained, not to share something funny, he said, but because what they were watching was something uncomfortable and deeply human and genuinely hard to look away from. On the same platform where the cars were once flexed, where the jewelry was shown off, where the come-up was documented for the world to witness and celebrate, Lil Woody was asking his fans for work, not announcing a new project, not dropping a collaboration, asking his fan base directly if they needed their grass cut, their trash taken out, any odd job, anything at all, just to bring in a few dollars. That was the actual and literal ask that went up on his Instagram story for everyone who followed him to see. Manual labor, From a man who used to get paid thousands of dollars just to show up somewhere and be himself, let that fully sink in. A man who once had entire platforms competing to book him. A man whose laugh alone could make a clip go viral. A man whose energy was so genuinely valuable that creators were strategizing just to get access to it, was asking his own community if they had any yard work available. The contrast between those two realities is not just painful to witness. The contrast between those two realities is the entire lesson of this story packaged in a single moment. Here is what needs to be said out loud, because this is the part of the story that actually matters beyond just the drama of the situation. None of this had to go this way. This was not inevitable. This was not the result of some external force or industry conspiracy or bad luck arriving out of nowhere. Lil Woody was not robbed. He was not set up to fail by some behind-the-scenes power structure. He was not the victim of anything except the absence of a financial plan during the years when having one would have changed everything. He had real opportunity, he had real income, he had a window into sustained financial security that a significant portion of people in his position never even get to look through. What was missing was the wisdom to know what to do with it while it was there. And that wisdom is not something that comes automatically just because the money arrives. It has to be sought. It has to be taught. It has to be surrounded by the right people who will push back when the spending gets reckless and demand accountability when the plan is being ignored. For anyone watching this who might not be fully familiar with how the economics of this space actually work, let me break it down simply. When your entire income comes from bookings and appearances, you are operating as a freelancer. No matter how large the checks are during your peak, you are still a freelancer. There is no employer providing benefits or building a retirement fund on your behalf in the background. There is no guaranteed paycheck arriving every 2 weeks no matter what happens. Every single dollar you earn comes directly from being chosen by someone. And the moment you stop being chosen consistently, the income stops. There is no severance. There is no cushion built into the model itself. The model only works for as long as the demand lasts. And when the demand shifts, you are completely exposed. The people who actually build lasting wealth through this kind of platform are the ones who use the years of high demand to build things that generate money independently of that demand. Properties that produce rental income, whether you are famous or not. Businesses that run with or without your personal involvement on a daily basis. Investments that compound quietly in the background over time. Financial instruments that are working while you sleep, while the bookings are slow, while the algorithm is moved on to the next phase. That is the infrastructure that allows someone to weather the natural end of any wave. Lil Woody never built that infrastructure. He built a lifestyle instead. And lifestyles, unlike investments, do not generate returns. This pattern is not a story unique to Lil Woody. This same arc has played out so many times in entertainment and sports and digital fame that it almost feels scripted at this point. Different people, different specific purchases, different specific platforms and industries, but the exact same structure every single time. The money comes in, the money goes out on depreciating things and visible lifestyle. The income stream slows or stops. There is nothing left and nothing built to replace what is gone. What makes Lil Woody's particular version of this story hit as hard as it does is the visibility of the bottom. Because the bottom for him is not private. It is not something happening quietly behind closed doors. It is an Instagram story. It is public. It is documented. It is the same man who once documented his highest moments on that same platform, now documenting his lowest. At the end of the day, this is not just a story about one man's finances or one man's decisions. This is a story about what happens when fame arrives faster than wisdom does.